Evening and welcome to the December 13th, 2019 BoD meeting. We're calling this to order at 8:12 p.m. Corn, are you taking notes?
Yep.
Thank you. For everybody's convenience, I have added the Board of Directors meeting agenda and the budget to the Spectators Lounge. Everybody's welcome to pull those up and follow along with us. Our first, let's go through our attendance. Astrowinds?
Here.
Ravenstone?
Here.
Lupin Moon?
Here.
Icefire Bay?
Not relevant to BoD.
Frozen Code?
Here.
Northridge 2?
Here.
And Northridge 1 is here as well. So the first item on the agenda for the evening is acceptance of previous meeting minutes for the November 22nd, 2019 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those meeting minutes?
Yes.
Is everybody okay to vote?
Yes. Yes.
Hearing no objections, I'm just going to go north to south as usual. Astrowinds?
Yes.
Ravenstone?
Yes.
Lupin Moon?
Yes.
Frozen Coast?
Yes.
Northreach 1? Yes. Northreach 2?
Yes.
All in favor, no opposed. Oh, sorry, typing on this one. That's your job. Second order of business is budget review. If everybody will pull up your 2020 budget draft, we can go through areas. This is kind of one of the longer items. Spectators, feel free to pull that up, and if you have anything you'd like to chime in on, the Spectators Lounge is there for you. So one thing we don't have here is anything for site fees for Icefire Bay. Has anybody heard anything from Sage?
Not in a while.
If I remember right, Shire's not supposed to be on the BoD. If
They
that's
aren't,
still...
but they are supposed to contribute to their budget budget discussion. Is there any opposition to us putting in just the same thing they've had for the last 2 years, which is breaking even on their site fees at $1,000 in and $1,000 out?
Sure. I'm good with it.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds like a reasonable assumption if they haven't changed location and we haven't heard anything about price changes.
All right, so looking over the items, is there anything that jumps out that we should address? I have 2 highlighted items, and we'll come to those and discuss them.
So I'm trying to look at the current document. I'm not sure. My sheet's not wanting to.
Say again? Are you having trouble looking at the current document? Do you need a link?
I've got the. Yeah, I'm on mobile, and it's not wanting to download the current document. It's not wanting to update the sheet as I've got it.
Yeah, mobile can be a bit of a pain.
Yeah, I know. I can't look at it on my phone at all, so.
All right. So going down the line items, the Three Barons Fair, that's a little light for what we've done in the past, but it's on average. We've done anywhere on average from 28 to 5,000 in income for the 3 barons, so we kind of split the uprights from 35. Dungeon crawl or dungeon con, as it were. This is at average of what we made last year, so that's just projected. Frozen Coast Campout, same. Most of these are pretty much the same we've seen in previous years. Was there something we'd like added that I've missed out on here?
So something that I would like to see added is something that we've done in the past, and that is a local parks champion budget. As it is, like, champions have been having to buy all of their stuff out of the discretionary fund, and like Frozen Coast just had to refurbish our loaner bin because the one we had, the lid was falling apart and the sides were busting out on it.
So that's a line item for individual parks. So how you do that is you're just going to tell us how much you're wanting to add there. Some people just put it under quote unquote discretionary funds and don't itemize. People like Astro Winds that just don't want to be told what to do.
Well, to a point on what Dorshar is saying, actually, I guess this being the board meeting, I should probably use his real name. Anyway, the budget we vote on does not include, from what I've seen in the past, the breakdowns that go into creating those numbers.
Good.
So the actual voted on number is miscellaneous operations Frozen Coast in his instance. Whether that it does or does not include a amount that was planned for Champions budget doesn't factor into the final approved budget.
So would you like to see it completely broke down for the vote? We generally tried to leave that up to the regions because there was, I believe it initially started because there was some concern over Northreach's overreaching in attempting to have oversight on the regions.
So I'm not particularly worried about whether or not we break it down versus discretionary or
timing it?
Champion. The
pizza?
do that, the discretionary budget, at least for my park, needs to be increased because, like I say, I just had to wipe out 80% of my discretionary fund for the rain to be able to refurbish just the carry bins for sash bag and loaner bin and about half the bin.
So, Stephen, what I'm going to need is just tell us what you need so we can add it into the budget item. You don't really have to super break it down and justify it to us. Just tell us what you need, and we can get to adding it to line items. So let's go through. I don't have any input in here on the looking over the itemizations on the budget here. I don't have anything on here from you. Can we go? I can sit with you and go through. We can add this real quick. I can type it in where we go since you're on mobile.
So you're saying that the sheet has not been uploaded, or that you don't have anything updated on the budget from my park?
I have just an overarching, I have one item on the overdraft one, but not on the itemized. So the first sheet of that budget has just kind of the overarching numbers. And then the following 2 tabs have the breakdown of where that income's coming from and the loss or the expense. So all I have from you here is your site expense, your site income, and then just an income and a expense on your miscellaneous operations with no breakdown. So the tab 2 and tab 3 is what you're looking for. Did I lose you?
No,
No,
I can hear you. I can hear you.
And I'm over here trying to have a conversation, and I haven't been relaying to the chat.
Isn't that how it is?
Yeah. So I've got all of that information written down. I did my budget. I just either my Google Documents isn't updating to you guys, or I'm not updating to yours. One or the other. I've got all of the information. If we need to just get it wrote out real fast.
Yeah, I am in here inputting stuff. So let's just go down the line items here. I have so I'm going to go on expenses right now. I have your inside site fee at $3,200. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Good. So I have 2 mid-range. Did you break those out, or do you have those as one line item?
So the 2 mid-range, I miswrote that the first time I entered it. I guess we're train of thought here. With a budgeted $300 per mid-range, and an expected income from each of those mid-range at $300. We broke even the last 2 mid-range, and our budget has been between $300 and $250.
Perfect.
That's been right on par with where we've been running.
Okay. So you wanted a champions fund added. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Now on the overseeing budget draft page, I was under the impression that the Frozen Coast discretionary budget is to include both our discretionary funds and that our mid-range is supposed to come out of the discretionary, correct?
So your main screen here is not discretionary. Miscellaneous operations is the breakdown of all the stuff on the other sheets other than site. So let's I can take all that information over from here and I'll put it on the main screen for you. So how much were you asking for your champions fund?
Keep my train of thought here. Do some quick math in my head. If we could do $150, that would be ideal. That gives it $75 for each champion each 6 months. That allows for the purchase of things like foam and tape and whatnot for doing terrain effects during gym.
Did you have any other funds that you were looking to add income to?
Any other funds that we're looking to have income from?
Sorry, that you're looking for money for, like PM funds, Regent funds.
No, not off the top of my head. We usually do $150 just discretionary for use for the Monarch, and that's been a working budget so far. We just need something in the budget to refurbish our loaner equipment.
Okay. Is there anything else your region needs to add to the budget? All right.
That's read over this and make sure that I'm keeping up with you.
While we're waiting for him, Corin, did you figure out that AmpGuard International number I should be adding here?
Well, I know what it was last for 2019. I'd have to review with you how we calculated this number, but it's $1,975.
What is our income for 2019?
Right now, looks like $35,551.13. I'm not sure that I've got my formulas catching everything, though, off the top of my head.
What is our obligated minimum to AI BoD based on the last COM?
That's what I'm trying to look up right now. I was hoping we had that info, but let me get that.
All right, so after doing a quick check, if we've got the Champions Fund added to that budget, then that covers the all of the stuff that my region should need. But I did have another Northreach proposal item that one of my members brought forward that they wanted to see us discuss.
All right, what was that?
They wanted to discuss putting aside a portion of Northreach budget for purchase and resale of crafting resources for players.
So they're wanting us to like stock supplies?
Yeah. They're concerned that with the suspension and the loss of that line of materials, that there will be no efficient way of being able to get it here or to get weapon making materials or shield blanks up here at a reasonable rate for a single individual. And they wanted to know if Northreach could put a line item in the budget for purchase and resale of said materials.
That can add some interesting complications with storage and management. So I think that's something we'd have to discuss, like, as a group if we're wanting to have somebody actually, because that's an asset they'd be needing to hold on to store. In general, before we had somebody up here doing that, a couple of us would get together and we'd buy a sheet of foam and have it sent up.
Right. I understand that. This was an idea that was proposed, and I told them that I would bring it forward. It felt like it had merit, and it was something that they wanted to see discussed.
I think it's worth considering. I think we should table it until after we're done looking at the main elements of the budget.
Fair.
So I just looked up the COE. The base is 2,000.
Okay.
going to put in our base obligation here. All right. So other line items that are kind of up in the air, my highlighted ones here. Grand Academy. We have not had any autocrats step up to want to actually take over that. We have struggled to break even with it in the last couple years, so I don't know. Is this something we're wanting to pursue this year? Are we wanting to do it like every other year? I don't know what we as a group want. If we want to have that on here and pursue it.
I wouldn't be opposed to moving on with it, like doing it every other year, mostly just because a lot of the time the big issue is just finding an actual place to nail down.
I was going to say it. Go ahead,
Go
Art.
ahead. Sorry. I've had a couple people give suggestions of locations, but at the same time, nothing real. When I tried contacting them, nothing really fell through either.
I think part of it is maybe trying to come up with what the population's interested in, because I know a lot of people have mentioned like things like bringing a sword night up, and it's like, is that something that we could do without necessarily having Grand Academy, if that's what people are wanting, or if there's other things they're wanting, is like looking into just kind of focusing on those things that people are interested in.
That's one thing that I was actually going to bring up, that we don't have to do Grand Academy to bring a sword night up. We can just have that as we do our mini boot camp, and we can make that an event.
And I also know in previous years when we've tried to gauge a general interest of what everyone wanted to get lessons on, we were either too widely thinly spread, or we just didn't get enough people to sign up to where we could justifiably do so financially.
Well, that's kind of telling us a story there then too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like, one, the event's not making us any money. Two, it's poorly attended. And three, it's an administrative nightmare to try and make it happen at the time of year when we usually do it. And we're running out of time to get that started, even because it usually happens in February, doesn't it? Or
It varies.
Yeah, traditionally, it's been over spring break.
Okay, so
in general, is this something we just want to remove for this year, and we'll come back to it later if we're interested?
Quick question for Jason. The idea of a budget item that doesn't have a set amount, but is meant to be paired, like in this case, an expense paired with an income such that it would be a break even. Is that a normal thing on normal budgets that there's a way of formally doing?
So you're asking, there's something you know how much it's going to cost, but you don't know how much it's going to make, or the other way around?
Neither really. Because like a lot of our stuff we set as break even. So we plan, like if we're doing mid-range, we charge to plan enough per person for the expected number of people to make back what we spent. So we estimate how much it's going to cost, and we just put the same number in the expense and income fields. Is there a way in like normal formal budgeting to say this can be any amount so long as it's balanced by a corresponding income?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be balanced. So in a budget, it's a little different than when you're looking at like balancing through accounting. But it's really, I mean, that's I'm sure you guys know that he's asking me because this is what I do, and it's like it's coming up with estimates for that. Sometimes you have historical estimates. Sometimes you're really just coming up with an estimate, and trying to use an educated guess based off of whether you're coming up. Okay, well, we're gonna put in a price of this at like $50 per person. We're gonna estimate we have X amount of people attend, and we're gonna estimate that it's gonna cost us this because a rate for a room is this, and just does that make sense?
Yeah, and my concern might just be related to the way Northreach has traditionally done budgets.
Well, I'll tell you, using a budget as a tool, it's not really something we just set a budget and we forget about it. It's if you're not, setting a budget, then going back and reviewing budgets versus actual and understanding why they're not the same. It's kind of a useless tool in that aspect.
Yeah, and that's something we haven't typically really done in the past in Northreach. I'm basically with Grand Academy, though, the thing I'm trying to get to, if there's a way of getting there, is saying that we can do Grand Academy and it can cost whatever it costs as long as we charge an appropriate amount for it to make back the costs. Versus the way Northreach typically does things of, if we don't put it on the budget, we can't do it unless we have a vote to add it to the budget, which is something that we can do. So maybe that's just how we go about it.
Alternatively, we can leave it on there as a budget line item, breaking even. And if we don't do it, then we didn't do it.
Yeah, because right now I think that's pretty much what we've got for this year. And I'd leave it as a break-even line item.
Oh yeah, I don't want to lose money on the event. I mean, I do appreciate it as an event. I don't want to try to make money on it because we don't need to make money.
Yeah.
But leave that on there. All right, so I'm just going to leave that on there as a break-even event in case we would like to pursue it. But currently, we do not have anybody that's looking at stepping up to take on that role. So moving down to the other kind of contentious item on here that I'd like to discuss is the operations line item for travel to gathering of the clans. We discussed this a little bit earlier in the CoC, but not very much at length. We're considering assisting with sending the either king or the ambassador to gathering of the clans, since we do the boats. In the last few years, if we wanted to send a representative, they just paid for themselves and went down. Want to see if we want to actually start paying for our representative to go down, or at least assisting in it.
I'm fine with that, with paying for somebody to go down or assisting.
Yeah, I think this is something that we should do. Northreach is expected to have a presence at the annual COM meeting, and we shouldn't expect whoever runs for Northreach Monarch to run for that position in the understanding that they're going to have to pay out of pocket to go do that.
Right, because if they can't, because life happens, or just If they can't, but they would be, still get in, then we have an issue of, well, now what? Because we're supposed to, be there to vote. So,
and we've generally tried to avoid finances being a barrier to hold office, and there's a limit to how far we can go with that. But I mean, you can't run for this office if you don't have $2,000 to spend over the course of the year. I mean, that's a little bit of a different threshold.
Yeah, it's so I know, like with plane tickets and whatnot, that's a exorbitant expense above and beyond what most people can budget for a volunteer position. I mean, these people are already donating an exorbitant amounts of time to the organization. It doesn't seem fair that we should have to make them pay as well.
So it sounds like we're kind of all leaning towards that. I arbitrarily put in the sum there because based on what I've seen when I've gone down there for plane tickets and a car. Higher, lower, do we want to go a little bit lower and it's only an assistant?
And without doing the research on travel prices and whatnot, it looks fairly reasonable to me. If the overall cost ends up being less, I mean, it's not like we have to spend the entire amount.
Speaking from personal experience with volunteer organizations like this, usually if there's a mandatory thing that somebody has to attend out of an obligation to the organization to hold the voluntary position that they're holding, the organization covers it. Like,
technically, it's not mandatory. We just wouldn't have a vote if we don't send somebody, which I think we should have a vote.
And that's kind of the thing, though, is like, okay, we can either pay for this and send somebody down there, or we just don't get a say on national scene. And that's kind of a big thing. I know that with the other nonprofit that I'm heavily involved with is High School Rodeo. And twice a year, the national directors, I should say, from each state meet to do rule changes and votes and things like that. It's on the association to kind of pay for that, usually, because they're expected to go as part of holding their office.
All right, that being said, that actually takes us up to almost exactly 1,500 in deficit. Is there areas that we want to address where we are missing income?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we usually make considerably more money from our fundraising events than we have budgeted for?
Let's take a look. So I have at the state fair us making $8,000. We made, was it 8,000 or 8,500 last year?
Last year was 8,500.
So I'm gonna I will pipe in last year's numbers. Wolf's Cry. That's not technically a fundraising event, but we do in general make a couple $100. Nothing outrageous. Three Barons Fair, we're at about an average. It might actually be slightly high, but I'm expecting Three Barons to kind of up their game this year. We've had that as high as 45, but we've also had it as low as like 28. Sorry, Cody. Go ahead.
So I'm looking between both this year's and last year's. Why is it lower on this one than it was last year for the expense amount? Because it was 2,000, it looks like last year, and then it's only 1,200 this year.
It was we only budgeted for 12. Was it 2,000 last year? I thought it was 1,200 last year.
1,500.
1,500?
Sorry, I'm looking.
That's the
I keep
number
looking at
I've
the
got.
wrong one.
Okay.
Yeah, it is 1,500. I keep looking at the left side instead of the right side.
I can tell you, I'm pretty sure we actually only spent about 1,000.
Number I've got in the spreadsheet, which again might have some items missed in the calculation, is $955.27.
Yeah. I was pretty darn close. So 1,200 is pretty standard at what we spend for the event.
Okay, fair enough. I just saw the difference and was just curious.
I put it in there based on what I've spent at the event previously. Sorry, I had to plug in my laptop. All right. So moving down, dungeon crawl. I put that at $12,000 expense with $14,000 income. That's what we made last year. We don't really have much to go off of otherwise.
So how did this event look before we turned it into Dungeon Con?
Break even, spending about $4,000 and gaining about $4,000.
Is that what we'd expected to go back to if we decided to drop the con?
I would assume yes. But that would be on next year's budget because we've already voted to do this one. And started selling tickets.
So is this one we're talking about right now? Is this for the one?
Yeah, this will take into account February's con. Because this is all for 2020. It's we do this budget a little bit too late. We should have done this last month, to be honest, if we were. And the fact that we do the Dungeon Con kind of a year in advance, we might need to address how we do the budget.
Yeah, Dungeon Crawl kind of spans budget years. We've got income on this year that's attributable to next year's Dungeon Con. And yeah.
So was there another event that you were looking at, Derricksar, that you thought was off on income?
I don't know about off. Like I said, I'm not seeing an updated version of any of the sheets, but my curiosity was, don't we normally make more than we budget for? More than it's actually written into the budget?
No, actually, in a lot of occasions, we make significantly less than what we budget for, which has been a point of annoyance for me because we always put this really big number and it's not going to happen.
Those swords were a good example of that.
Swords were a great example of that. We were budgeted to make a fucking fortune on swords. Sorry, should not be cussing. So I'm trying to be, I think we should actually be really look at this hard and not try to starry-eyed it. Look at it from a rational perspective. If we do better, that's great, but we should plan for reality.
Agreed.
I think one item that I might have lowballed there is the Twin Bears Bar and Grill. Puppet brought up a really great opportunity. He's doing a new event out in Fairbanks, selling food out there. We usually get about a 200% markup on when we do alcohol. So I suppose I could change that out, do a 300 expense and 600 because I think I was actually highballing that a bit much with our 400 and 800 to account for a 200% markup.
Well, whatever you budget is, if we run out of stuff, we can just make a quick trip to town and buy some more stuff.
Correct.
Hey Amanda, quick thing that I just noticed cross-referencing the budget you're working on with the one that I'm working from in the ledger for 2019. We've got a couple items that were added via amendment after the fact.
Okay.
We've got federal and Palmer taxes.
Oh, that is a good call. Let's add that in down under administrative. And how much did we have for last year? Or this year?
1,217 for federal and 595.40 for Palmer. Although that would include everything we paid in Palmer taxes last year, which includes some back taxes from 2017. But it's probably low.
Sorry, go again with the federal taxes, please.
1,217. Wrong column.
Oh, thank you. Hey, I'm trying here to give us more money. Were it only that easy.
Yeah.
All right. Man, I just fixed some of the deficit issue, and you're going to do me like that. And we're back up almost to 3,000 in deficit.
Well, that's what
Hey,
comes with not reviewing actuals.
If we're trying to save money, we don't actually need a discretionary budget here in Ashwins.
You don't save money by just completely removing money. Let's see. So I got a question in the events. Why is Ravenstone's discretionary fund higher? Let's look at that.
Because they're cooler.
Because they ask for more?
They did, in fact, ask for more. 1360. Let's go over to expensive and see where that broke out.
They added a little more to a couple things that they asked for last year. Or they asked for 1280 last year. Looks like I'm asking for 80 more. It looks like most of the other parks are actually asking for less this year. But we were the highest last year too.
It looks like the major thing here is they lose money on their mid-reigns.
And part of that could be what we're charging for them as well.
Well,
yeah, you also have really expensive mid-range in comparisons to everybody else.
Yeah, another point on Ravenstone's operations budget being higher for the expense, it's higher for the income also.
Not much though. They're 330. Loop and Moons is 400 on their income.
I did decrease the income last year because of I looked more at what actually happened versus what was kind of plugged in there last.
Okay, yeah.
$60. So what's the 400 for each of them? Because generally the extra money you see is site fees. Are you entering your site fee in there too? Or your site expense? Because
that's typically part of the mid-range budget, yes.
Huh?
That's typically been part of the mid-range budget.
On winter schedule?
Yep.
Shouldn't we have a line item specific for site fees?
And it doesn't include the weeks that are mid-range, because that's in the mid-range budget. Typically, at least from what I've seen going over the budgets before.
I calculated the site fees based on estimating. I actually put notes in there on those lines. The 31 Sundays in the gym at 3 hours at $30 an hour. The extra on the mid range. I mean, we can take it out of there. We didn't have it in there last year, but Ziogen did use it an extra 2 hours in the gym. So that would have just been unbudgeted for this year.
I don't think this is. Let's see, from Rosedath. So income should be mid-range income. Generally, that's 600. That can fluctuate to be free if you promote bribe the reeb income and other cool incomes to off balance. I'm reading through and finding if we, because that's not a large enough amount where that's going to be game changing here.
It's certainly, and on both sides of this, there's certainly there's wiggle room, but you're right, it's not going to get us the 1,500.
27-24 now. So dues, I have that at 600. That comes out to 30 people every 6 months. Is that low?
For this year, we are at $845.32.
And we're just about to go into election season. Lift that up a little. Ravenstone, are you able to bring your mid-range down kind of in line with everybody else's? Everybody else looks like they're about 300 a mid-range. Except for Lupin Moon, 200 a
Yeah, I was
mid-range.
looking at, let's bring the mid range down, and let's go ahead and bring the discretionary down to the same amount as Loop.
Okay, so I'll leave that extra 60 on for your extra hours. And what are you bringing your discretionary down to?
Let's do the 150 for each.
All right, so that takes that.
If it helps Ravenstone, Ashwin's doesn't have a mid-range dollar amount. Not the last 4 we've had.
Are you guys just potlucking it?
No, that's not what's
I am
happening.
not budgeting for puppeting.
Come on, throw it in there. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, just add a puppet line item.
We actually still need to add in Ice Fiber Base. Okay. So Castle Remake's just on there from the previous year. We've Do we expect some form of income? Do we want to try to take donations again this year?
I'm for that. If we want to ask people if they want to contribute to it.
Yeah.
I'm down for buying a tower.
Puppet wants an entire tower to himself.
Hey, that was the old deal, wasn't it? It was like $500 for like a tower.
I think you just got a big shield on a tower.
Oh man, got ripped off.
Poor Puppet.
Joseph and his snowballs. Yeah. I mean, I would totally dig to put like an Asher wind shield on the towers. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind donating for a guy.
We can put out there and see if anybody would like to donate.
Nap time, Daddy.
Get away, son.
I said me how.
With Palmer sales taxes, we should generally just start at our event, start charging sales tax while we're out there. So that should become a break even.
Yeah. Yeah, legitimately, Palmer sales tax shouldn't really be on the budget because it should be, we take it in, we give it to Palmer. It's not really our money at any point. So.
Grok in the spectators lounge. Issues for castle is storing / maintenance. No one did either for the last castle. I think that's actually written into the castle bid. We've asked for some consideration on that during castle bid process.
Yeah, that could easily take another Connex though if we get a castle built and need a place to store it.
Yes.
And if we're getting rid of those old DC walls, we'll have a lot more room in the current Connex as well.
That is accurate as well.
Yeah. I know that if we move forward with the Everblocks castle, they're definitely bulky and will take up a lot of room, especially if we're planning to add to it every year.
Any castle's going to be bulky.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really a way around that.
Agreed. Plywood just stacks down easier and is easier to organize logistically in my head.
I don't think it really makes much of a difference. I'm reasonably familiar with how Legos stack up into a block, and I help with Strike at Ren Fair, so I see how they're equivalent to some castle wall designs would go in a Connex. It's not really much of a difference.
I'm personally not invested in a castle. I know a lot of you people are, but they're cool, but there's a lot of logistics there.
I would be more invested in the castle if we had a piece of land to put it on.
I'm not interested in Northridge owning land myself.
I am neither am I interested in Northridge owning land. That's so many logistical things to look at.
Yeah, it might be something that we'd be in a position to look at 20 years from now.
I think that's kind of the point of the statement,
Alright.
is that without having a place to keep the castle / store it / set it up and maintain it, it's kind of just a logistical nightmare.
Well, a place to set it up hasn't been a problem.
I like Nolarian's blow up castle idea. Maybe like a big bouncy.
Yeah, we could just get a bouncy house. That'll work.
Alright, guys, let's stay on point. I'm only halfway into my bottle right now, so I'm still able to stay on point, so. Going down our items here, right now we're at a deficit of $528.
I like Rosestaff's idea about fundraising for sending somebody to the gathering of the.
Throwing out an idea that we fundraise to send somebody to Gathering of the Clans, perhaps a crafting bid?
I think he's talking like a auction for Northreach Crafts to add an income to the GOTC budget item.
I mean, even if it's just kind of like what we're doing with the castle and just asking for donations too. I mean, just adding some sort of income to that line.
Well, I mean, we could totally do something like we do with Food Fight too, where, you know, we have people like offer up, these are things I'm willing to like donate to make or whatever, and you know, people donate, but then that money goes to the kingdom instead, or like maybe they get a portion of it or something. You know, and like there could even be like, oh, you get prizes for it, like trinkets, talismans, whatever, you know, because those literally cost us nothing to give out.
Well, I don't necessarily think that would have to be attached to the GOTC line item. I think that would be an event in of itself. I mean, it would be to fund that, but I don't think that would need to be on that line.
True.
If we don't put it on the same line, we just set it as the Northreach craft auction or whatever we want to call it. It means that the funds are not allocated to go to any one specific thing. It's just an income for Northreach, same as any other fundraiser.
Yes, but we don't have to allocate specific funds to me. Us just putting that line that we have allocated $1,500 from our funds is allocating the funds.
Yeah.
Honestly, your bribe the reeve gets allocated anywhere, any which way. You can justify it however you want, but it's all going into the same pool.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a line item for income for miscellaneous operations kingdom.
So have that for those random events, such as raise money for the travel fund.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds reasonable. How much should we add there?
Well, we could call it 528 things balance.
Oh, you're horrible.
I mean, it doesn't have to be dead on. We just have to try and hopefully make more, but as long as we're breaking even and it's not a deficit budget, we're doing good things.
All right, I said 550 because I'm not going to put 528. All right, does this look appropriate to everybody? Is there anything you would like added? Obviously, I will go in and take some of our data and put it on the other sheets and clean it up. But the overarching budget is something that we're happy with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, look at it at the moment, but just from what I've gathered through conversation, I'm happy with it.
Cameron, would you like to clean this up for presentation to the all thing, or would you like me to do it?
I think I'd like you to do it. Honestly, I'm trying to stay focused on wrapping up our 2019 year-end stuff.
Can do. All right, that's perfect. Then
One quick little thing, though, that I'm just remembering that I'd wanted to add that isn't there, which might just fit perfectly well in the miscellaneous operations anyway. We when we do our season passes,
yes.
there's nowhere on the budget that goes. Although miscellaneous operations kingdom is the
Dude,
fitting
I
place.
am on the phone. What? Nothing.
You're also not muted.
Ah, nuts.
Push to talk. Push to talk is what you need.
Mute button. Screaming your doozy.
Yeah, I think it's
But either adding a regular meeting site rental item for Kingdom or just including it in miscellaneous operations. But yeah, that's something I noticed that we don't have anywhere in our 2019 budget to actually put it.
yeah, the miscellaneous seems like an appropriate spot for that.
Okay. Yeah, so we might figure that counts into the 550, or maybe currently we're no longer deficit with that 550 amount. So
yeah. All right. If everybody's happy with that, I will work on finalizing this so we can get a copy to put up to the all thing. Before we put this out to the all thing, I will finalize it, make it all pretty, and I'll put it on the BoD voting boards. I don't want to vote tonight because everybody can't look at it, and it's not complete to vote on. So watch for that online in the next couple days, if that's okay with everybody. Hearing no objections.
Sounds good to me.
Giving you no time to have objections. We're going to move on to our third and final item on the agenda, which is we would like to vote to add Stephanie Cavanis as an authorized agent in matters pertaining to Dungeon Con so that she can sign our contracts and whatnot. Anybody have discussion on that?
I don't think so.
I already pretty much decided that on the last meeting. We just didn't vote on it because we were all in a hurry.
I don't think we did because there was some discussion afterwards. But so Stephanie Cavanis would the vote will be would the board like to add Stephanie Cavanis as an authorized agent for matters pertaining to Dungeon Con in working for AmGuard of Alaska. If everybody's good to vote, then I'm just going to head from north down to south. Asher wins.
All right, this time when I'm not yelling, yes.
Ravenstone.
Yeah, she can spend somebody else's money.
Oh, good, because I was going to tell her if you voted no. Lupin Moon.
Yes.
Frozen Coast.
Yes.
Northreach 2.
yes.
And Northreach 1 votes yes as well. All right. Does anybody have anything else they would like to add to the agenda for the evening? All right. Hearing no objections, we'll adjourn this meeting at 9:17 p.m. All right. And that ends our BoD rolls us over to our CoC meeting. Yay! Which should be a lot shorter because we don't have budgets there, which Rolo loves. That's I'm gonna pop over since everybody's been talking in the CoC. I'm assuming you can't see it. Grok, we started at 8, a little bit before. There we go. There's our CoC agenda. But I started partying around 7, if that helps you. Did we pick up a sage anywhere? No sage. So it looks like everybody but Sage is in attendance. Mark that here. So I will go through some quick announcements first. So there have been some recent concerns brought up on our Facebook page in regards to racial slurs at park days. I want to make it pretty clear that Northreach does not tolerate any racial, sexual orientation, anything about discrimination towards our members. If you're experiencing anything like this, if you're hearing things that are making you extremely uncomfortable, it's making where you don't want your friends to come and participate, that's not okay. And I want to encourage everybody to find somebody that if you don't feel like you can come and talk to the CoC, I want you to find somebody that you can talk to so that they can bring this forward for you. It's really important that we know that these things are going on. Kind of came out of left field for me because I didn't know these things were going on. I know when I first started AmpGuard, I did hear a lot of kind of sexist things, and I know I've been really quick to try to slap people into not saying sexist things. So I want that to be like across the board. Everybody, if you hear something, say something. If you don't feel like you can say something, find somebody that can. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable or unwelcome. And I know some of us will say stupid things. It's on you also to recognize when you've said those things and apologize for it. Don't try to make excuses for it. Just recognize that you've had this bad behavior or this inappropriate comment. That way we're not inadvertently hurting our friends. It's something really, really important that I think we all need to start having these discussions and not be scared to have the discussions. Did anybody else in the CoC want to discuss some of this? I know it was under my announcements, but I think it's important that we all have these conversations.
I think to me the important thing to remember is it doesn't matter whether you're making a joke or not. And it doesn't even matter if you're making a joke about your own race. It's the same thing. We should just not tolerate it.
I can't make any of my white bread comments anymore. I'm so darn Irish.
I know. I make stuff like that too, but I think it's just like that's sometimes that's where they start, is just making fun of ourselves, and then it turns into making fun of each other, and it seems playful and fun until somebody gets upset and offended.
I agree. No, Rose Death, I'm afraid you can no longer make orc jokes. Actually, no, go ahead and make orc jokes. That's fine.
Oaks is based.
But I think another big thing, like Mara was saying about, that people should come to us if they encounter these issues I definitely just want to reiterate that because, officers don't see everything that happens. And if, like, say it's at a park day and, no officer sees it or hears it, even if they're nearby, they might have been focused on something else. So I definitely feel like people need to come to us. Otherwise, we can't do anything about it if we don't know that it happened. Like that's a big thing.
Know that I will personally lay the smack down on anybody that is out there saying super inappropriate things and making everyone feel uncomfortable and unwelcome.
And to add on to that bit about coming to your officers, it is our job to serve you guys. Like, it's our job to be there for our people. So we want to hear those things. It's not just a matter of we don't know if it happened or not if you don't tell us. We want to be able to do a good job for you guys, but we need your help.
Right. And kind of to add on to that too, if you say you go to an officer and you feel like nothing's being done, like say something happens and like the nearest officer is your GMR and you feel like, it doesn't get brought up in a timely manner or anything, feel free to bring it up to like the next officer up from that. Like, I don't think any of us have an issue. Like, I know myself, I don't have an issue with anyone messaging me, even if I'm not from your park. Like, I have no, especially if it's an issue, this big of an issue, I'm available pretty much 24 hours a day. Like, if I'm at work or whatever, it might take me time to message you, but like, I will get back to you and make sure that things are dealt with.
To add on to that, it doesn't have to be somebody that's necessarily from the Council of Crowns either. If you don't trust them, fine, but just contact an officer that you can trust, because at the end of the day, all the officers in Northreach, they're still people, and they can understand what people are going through.
All right, so that being said, if anybody wants to discuss this further, I'm more than happy to talk about this outside of the meeting. We can have kind of if you want to talk about it personally, if you want to talk about it publicly, that's fine. I just really want everybody to be comfortable and welcome. Moving down. DungeonCon tickets are on sale. Yay! So I want everybody to share those ticket links with your friends, share them with your family, get as many people out as possible. If you see somebody posting a link for DungeonCon, like it, share it, do everything you can. Let's try to get as many people out to this event and having fun. That's something that's going to be pretty great. Zygen has taken over for that. Gosh, it's been 3 weeks since our last meeting and it's only been 2 weeks since we named Zygen as our DungeonCon autocrat. So in a minute, I will have her do some updates after I go through the rest of these announcements. Land audit review timeline. We are trying to keep everybody up to date on where they're at in their land reviews. So everybody's trying to stay really up to date on what their averages are and how everything's going. So, Corin, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're doing the land audit review in February, correct?
Possibly. So there's the audit requirements committee that hasn't really had a whole lot of action on it that could potentially turn all of that kind of stuff on its head.
If I may, I actually have. All right, so my park is blessed with having 2 brand new doe-eyed law school graduates. And I actually have a corpora draft change for the land audit section. I have just not had a chance because I've been super busy with work this week to review it before submitting it to the CoC. As it is detailed right now in the bit of the draft that I've gotten to glance over, it would designate the land audits be done by the end of February and the end of August each year.
That's what we currently have.
That's
We
what
just
currently
haven't
have.
ever done it.
When I read the draft, I believe it just said that they had to be done twice a year. For the corpora, I thought it just said that it had to be done twice a year and didn't have a set timeline for when to be done.
It's February and August.
All right, so we're looking at having those. We're going to have that audit out by the end of February for us to review. That way we can see who's promoted or demoted. I'm going to highly encourage every region to look at your averages right now. See what you need to push if you're trying to get up to your next rank, if you're trying to maintain and your numbers aren't quite what they need to be. If you have any trouble finding those documentations, they are at the audit or the Prime Minister reports. They're on the homepage of akampguard.com under, I believe, public records. Make sure you're following that. That way you can see how you can actually help your park. All right, moving down, that was my announcements. Next up is Zyogen with some Dungeon Con updates. Stephanie, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
That's clear.
All right. So, Dungeon Con. So where we're at, I have made contact with all of the subcrats. So, and we've had meetings and we're all pushing forward through all of those. So we're on track with everything regarding the dungeon and the tavern and all the gaming. So we're all good to go there. I've been in contact with the state fair, and now that I can actually sign the contract, I will get with Corin and get the deposit made and square away Raven Hall. I'm been in contact with. I finally made contact with the people that did the drape and wall stuff, so that's all squared away. I sent Rosedath out, and he has now been marketing full, and we're getting some hits and stuff with the Dungeon Con page. So getting some good advertising out. So hopefully that'll help us with pick up our numbers. And let's see, what else can I say about Dungeon Con? But as you said earlier, Mara, buy your tickets, please. Like, share, do all you can, promote everything. We're going to put some flyers out. We're going to hit the high schools up. So we got some good advertising. VIP tickets go off sale December 31st. So if you want a VIP ticket and early access to the D&D tables or the gaming area or the dungeon itself, get those VIP tickets.
I believe the VIP tickets are the only way you can get the fully customized mug as well, correct?
That is correct. If you want a fully customized mug that's going to look pretty swanky, you'll get your VIP.
So Drake had contacted both of us with that idea. Are you going to be pursuing the contacting PTAs?
Yep. Rosedath made me up a flyer so I can send out to the PTAs. I'm gathering all of them now and get them an email sent over and say, hey, do this for your high school nerd.
Can you kind of share that idea with the group? I know you and I are aware of it, but get their input as well.
So Drake in his line of business has in the past contacted the different the different PTAs, like if you're out in Palmer, like Colony High School, all the home schools. In Anchorage, it would be like, you know, Bartlett or Service or whatever. Contact those schools. Say, hey, look, we got this weekend event. It's, you know, high school boys, girls, they love gaming. Come out and game with us for the weekend, and we'll give you $5 off your ticket. Drake said he's gotten a pretty good return doing that, so we're going to give it a shot.
Does anybody have questions for Zygen?
I see Drake is typing.
Typey, typey, typey.
Yeah, I have a question. Is there going to be RV parking?
I don't. Well, I don't know. I can look into that to see what kind of parking situation that we'll have. I believe we have access behind Raven Hall. So we might have that parking lot, and we might be able to park your RV there. When I talk to Sherry next again, I'll find out if we can park an RV, and I think it might be in the contract too. So I'll pull that up and I'll let you know. I believe that was Puppet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that, Puppet.
Nice.
So Drake mentioned in here with the PTA thing, the key is actually to turn it into a fundraising event for the PTA. So not necessarily, you can give the $5 off, but every ticket that the PTA sells, you give them $5 back. So
Gotcha.
more of a rebate fundraiser for their school. So you have these parents and teachers pushing these ticket sales to raise money for their kids.
For those who are listening that are out of town, the Valley Hotel is giving us a break on rooms. So if you need a room, contact the Valley Hotel. Tell them that you're with the Dungeon Con or Amped Guard, and they can give you the $50 a night deal.
Very awesome. All right, so moving along. HARS, Month of Crown. Give me a breakdown of dates, where we're at, where we're going.
You got it. All right, as things stand right now, we are in the middle of the Month of the Crown. It opened up like a week ago, I think a little earlier, thanks to Astral Winds jumping the gun. And it's going to be staying open until the 28th and 29th of Then on January 11th, we have the weekend of Crown Claw. And elections will be the next week on the 18th and 19th, respectively.
Are these all updated on our calendar?
That is correct. They are all updated on the calendar.
And have you discussed with your Regents Council to make sure everything's happening across the same weekend for the Crown events? Crown Quals and such?
I kind of thought I went without saying, but I can double check with them just to make sure everything went through.
Please make sure to double check with that, because that is not always without saying.
Fair enough. I'll make sure that they know.
Does anybody have any questions for HARS and his Month of the Crown updates?
Follow-up question, is there anything that needs to be added to the calendar that has not been added already?
I think the one thing we probably want to get out there is the Dragon Master and Weapon Master, where that's going to be held.
Right. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'll make a note of that and make a post on the Northreach page later.
Can do an announcement here too. We have a captive audience that's been listening to us for an hour and a half.
All right, sure, why not? So the Dragon Master is going to be happening this reign, and we're going to be hosting it over at Ravenstone.
What is the Dragon Master, Hars?
Well, Mara, I am glad you asked. It is essentially a giant ANS competition for the whole kingdom.
Does it replace crown qualification, Hars?
It's more something that's held in addition to crown quals. Actually, one note of clarification I wanted to ask Mara is if someone is entering something in the Dragon Master but also needs to qual, would that also count towards their quals themselves?
We'll go through and discuss logistics on that. Generally speaking, with the Dragon Master, we just take over a person's quals, so it treats it the same way as crown qualifications. But that's also classified as the Dragon Master for the region.
Yeah, you're just making my life easier.
That's what I do. So I figured, but I didn't want to assume. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the long and the short.
Does anybody have questions for Mars? All right, moving along. Helping organize travel to major events. I keep seeing people pop up with, hey, can I get a ride to X, Y, or Z event? I'd like to discuss how we can facilitate that a little bit better. It's always kind of sad to me when somebody just sits there asking for a ride and we're not helping organize that. Is that something we should be pushing? I'd like my monarchs to be pushing it for their regions.
I know, speaking personally, that's something that has always been coordinated well locally or pushed for. When somebody's going north, I mean, to my knowledge, I've never heard anybody say, "I'm going north, but I have an open seat that you can't sit in." If people are going, they're always willing to take extras. That said, the only thing that I can think of doing on the North Reach end puts us back into budget discussions.
I think some of the easy stuff we can do as an organization is just kind of help facilitate those conversations. Kind of push for like organizing trips up, caravans up. I know anytime we're heading up to folks here in Anchorage are heading up to Astral Winds, we have a couple caravans all planning to go together.
True.
So really
if I remember correctly, we used to have a Facebook page for that, or maybe we made Facebook pages specifically for like each event. It's something I remember. I think it worked pretty well because people who were willing to take people or had extra seats would hop into that group, and then people could post in there, and it's like, yeah, like even if you can only make it to Anchorage, I can give you a ride the rest of the way, or like, you know, stuff like that too, which sometimes it's that easy, but
We do still have that, actually.
I think that was just for Astral Winds, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, it was initially, but I could easily retool it to just be a general travel page.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to retool that way people can constantly kind of put out there when they're traveling, where they're going, they have a place for that.
I'll get on there right now.
Yeah.
Looks like it got archived. I'll set something up later. On a side note, I updated the calendar. The Dragon Master is going on at the same time is set to go on the same time as Ravenstone's game.
Okay, so our last item on the agenda tonight is updates from our social media management team. Rose Death, are you there? Put him last on the agenda so he'd run for it before it came time for him. Are you server muted?
Can you hear me now?
I can, in fact, hear you now.
Oh, snap. I didn't know I was getting called up tonight. This is all kinds of awkward.
Gotcha.
Yep. No, we're doing great stuff over at the marketing team. We had our first meeting and it went well. We started our Facebook page. We got Instagram up and running. And we've been posting the heck out of it. We got lots of likes throughout AmpGuard, LARP, and surprisingly, hashtag Alaska, hashtag Kenai, hashtag Wasilla, hashtag Fairbanks has gotten a lot of surprising results. So great stuff there. Instagram is naturally great for promotion. Stepping back, we've kind of been taking it slow on the media side. We're gathering a lot of resources right now. As you've all seen, we had the contest where we basically were asking for photos to be gathered for us. I am still in the matter of creating the belt favor that was won, but I'll be sending that out Monday. And we're planning to do that maybe once a month, maybe more. We'll see what kind of response we get, how people are taking photos, and hopefully we'll be getting a lot more professional results, which is what we're looking for. So what I'd like to ask for from the Monarch side of things is promote it, right? We need to have people with the knowledge and skills of taking awesome photos in awesome garb, doing awesome things, to start getting collected and waiting for those contests to publish, right? So we can have it all in one spot. We can gather it up and start promoting. Because as you saw, like in the video that I posted, we had a lot of inconsistencies, and we really need to get consistent material so we can provide consistent ads. Otherwise, do you guys got any question for me or Wayne? I can pass things up. I think he's here in the chat. Do you want to shout out, dude? He's unmuting himself like I was.
I gotcha. I got D&D going on, so I was a little bit behind. Sorry.
No worries. But do you guys got any questions for us?
Yeah, I got one. Will a Northreach rug mat help you guys advertise?
It looked great on my floor. No, seriously, what do you got? Are you wanting to like put it in as one of the winnings for the contest, or what's the idea you got, boss?
No, it's your guys' stuff. It's at my house.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You're hawking off your stuff, huh? How many times have you stepped on it?
None. It's tacked to a wall. I'm pretty sure one of your officers came through and handed me that mat for one of my mid-range, and then it just never got returned.
Beef.
Everything that goes in my house never gets returned.
No, I don't have any questions for you at this time. I'm sure I'll think of some to harass you with by the next meeting when I put you on the spot.
Cool. I love being put on the spot. I'll miss that meeting.
Runeheart, he's throwing you under the bus because I'm going to drag you in kicking and screaming.
No, I'll send him a friendly reminder to not be there.
Joke's on you. I have his girlfriend on my phone.
Snap.
So I do have a question real quick. If somebody had just a bunch of on back files that they just wanted to dump on you, how would they go about doing that?
Get in contact with me. I'll share a Google Drive. Specifically, I think I know who you're talking about, and I do have one request there, and I was going to start addressing this on our next batch of photos. but I'll address it now. Anything where we're going to be putting people's names in the photos, especially with like the video ads, we will be giving credit to those people after the video in kind of like a credit scene. So if we are getting dumps of photos, if possible, dump them without a signature and let us know that you want a signature, right? So that I know we have a lot of professional takers across Alaska, and that kind of goes that spread out to you all. You know, we're not trying to take your media, but we would like to put that in a credit scene so people can still see that, right? So just putting that out there.
Watermark stuck on every photo. I got you.
Yeah, and yep, just get in contact with me, Wayne, and we will drop a Google link, and you can just download everything you got. Please don't put like 10 gigabytes in there because my Google account's not that big.
Well,
JPEGs are your friends.
To give some detail to the conversation, I've got a bunch of photos that I took for Crown Qual that I only entered about 5 of the 600 I took. So I was going to sort through it and find the better ones and probably dump like 100 of them on you.
Yeah, 100's cool. I'm not going to take all of them though, bro. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I was going to give you my best 100 and let you decide what to do with the rest.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I know we've already had a couple of people submit batch photos, and those are all getting cataloged in our G Drive for action, you know, creation, fun things, hanging out, stuff like that. We're bunching it up. We are organizing it, and that way we can start utilizing it. And that's on Wayne's side. He organized all that stuff. That was great.
Right on. So, simple answer is get in touch with you if you're going to do a mass dump.
Yeah, you know, we had a 5-minute discussion for a simple answer like that. Yep.
All right, let me clarify that for the simple minds like mine.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for your report. Moving on, I have nothing else on the agenda. Is there anything else we would like to discuss before I call this meeting closed?
Actually, what's the status on Dark Lodge Crossing?
We need to look into the logistics on that. They are currently requesting we review them to join Northreach. I just need to look over the requirements and if they've met them. I can totally have that on our next agenda.
Okay.
I would like to see where they're at.
Say again?
I know I would like to see where they're at. It was something we discussed quite a bit at Wolf's Cry, and then it's been kind of quiet since then.
Yeah, we'll get some data out and we will review them. They're very interested. We'll review at our next meeting. Anything else anybody would like to discuss this evening? Just another PSA, put out your award recommendations. I don't want to miss anybody. We are totally watching those. Hearing no objections, I will call this meeting closed at 9:51 p.m. Now, Jojo Potato was